Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick.
I'm Ian.
Today we're talking about some albums that we think are surprisingly good albums. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that we put together every week, and the Patreon page. Make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time we release new episodes. So when I say surprisingly good albums, I'm thinking, albums that the expectations weren't that high going into it, and then we're really surprised by how good the albums are.
In a couple cases, for me, I didn't really know that much about the band. So coming into the album, not knowing anything about them or knowing very little, and being pleasantly surprised by that work.
Yeah. The first one I've got is the new album from Rival Sons, Lightbringer. So this is the second album they've released this year. Their first album, Dark Fighter, I think was a good album. I wasn't super blown away by it, but I think it was a really solid rock album. And I was kind of went into Lightbringer kind of the same way. I didn't really know what to expect. I thought it'd be because it was all recorded during the same sessions. But I think Lightbringer is head and shoulders a better album than Dark Fighter. I don't know.
I don't know if I'd say that. I mean, they're both great. I've only listened to Lightbringer 3 or 4 times now, so where it falls between the two, I couldn't say. But coming into Rival Sons, kind of similarly for you, was Dark Fighter for me. So I didn't know what to expect with that, and I was kind of blown away by that album. I love that album.
No, they're both good albums,
both really
but
good.
I think going through those same recording sessions, I was really surprised how, at least I think, different Lightbringer is compared to.
There's definitely a distinctiveness between the two.
Yeah.
So for me, this one, we've talked about this band a lot on this channel. Greta Van Fleet's Anthem for a Peaceful Army. Of the Peaceful Army, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When this album came out, I was aware of Greta Van Fleet, but not really that much.
Living in Michigan here.
In Michigan, I'd heard other people talk about him, and I just kind of blew him off. Then you started listening to him, and you're like, you really need to check this group out. And this was my introduction to them. And I'm a huge fan now because of this album. I was totally shocked at how much I liked this album.
Yeah.
And then liking all their music. So,
Battle of the Gardens Gate is another great album.
Yeah.
Their new album might be my most disappointing album of the year so far. But
yeah, it's definitely not on par with this and Battle of the Gardens Gate.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd say it was hugely disappointing. But this was my introduction to this band, and being that it was this album, I was surprised by the quality of the music. I was surprised by the quality of everything going on there.
Yeah.
And
what I can say that surprised me about this album, I mean, I wasn't hugely surprised by him because I'd been a fan of him for a while, but there was all the comparisons to Led Zeppelin and all that, and then you go into this album, and there's some stuff on. Yes, there's always going to be kind of this link between them and Led Zeppelin, but there's stuff on here that is nothing like what you would expect a band that is known for sounding like Led Zeppelin. They've definitely grown and did a lot of different things on this album that I wasn't expecting.
Yep.
So my next one is an album that actually it's a whole band that this guy right here tried to convince me to listen to for at least several years. And because I was never a big metal fan outside of Black Sabbath, Metallica, I never really gave him a shot. And then their new album came out, and it took me a couple weeks to finally get around listening to it. And ever since I listened to it, I've been hooked on the band. And that is Impera by Ghost. This came out, 2021, I think, is when this album came out.
Yes.
And like I said, first couple of weeks, everyone was posting about it online. And I just I think I streamed the first couple of tracks off it. And I was like, just kind of okay. Then I broke down and finally decided to buy the record. And I loved it ever since. It's just, I'm a huge fan of Ghost now.
Yeah. And I would say, I can kind of understand that the couple singles they released off this, other than Call Me Little Sunshine, that was the only song that I really liked, that I was blown away by. Yeah. The other songs were it's the rest of the album.
Yeah.
Those songs are not indicative of what the whole album is. So for me, I can kind of see why took you a little longer to have
Yeah.
to listen to the whole package to appreciate it. So for the last few I don't have copies of.
I'll put nice pictures up.
He'll put pictures
right
up.
about here.
Yep. Everyone on the channel knows how much of a Jethro Tull fan I am.
Just a little bit, right?
Just a scotch. Martin Barre, the lead guitarist for Jethro Tull for 35 years, released a solo album in 2018 called The Road Less Traveled. He'd released solo albums in the past. I was not impressed. So when I saw it came out, I was like, maybe not. I ended up listening to it. It's a fantastic album. Whoever he's got on the album helping him, writing and the singer that he's got, it's just a great album. It's kind of more in tune with his roots as far as a musician, his guitar playing. It's a really good album. Road Less Traveled by Martin Barre. I was super surprised by how good that was.
The next one's a pretty interesting pick for me because I'm a big pop punk fan or punk rock fan, whatever you want to call it. I was never a big Alkaline Trio fan, though, and I've got a couple other albums, and I've listened to them off and on over the years, but I never really have loved a single album that they've released. And then they released an album called Damnesia, and this is a very different album because it's all their songs. It's not like new material or anything. They're going back through their discography. This is all re-recorded songs, all done acoustically. And the way that they do the acoustic version of these tracks, I love these versions over the tracks that are on the original albums. So it's very different. They're, of course, acoustically, they're very different tracks in the original versions. But it's one when I first broke down and listened to this album, it was one I probably had on repeat for at least a solid couple of weeks nonstop.
I tried listening to it. I really probably should give it a better, more focused chance because I wasn't terribly blown away, but I also only listened to this. I didn't listen to the original versions. Yeah. Maybe listening to those and then comparing the two.
Gives you a different appreciation of the tracks.
At least makes me analyze the perspective differently.
Yeah.
So my next one, I'm a slight Styx fan, but I'm not a huge Styx fan.
Styx,
yeah. Obviously, they're 70s stuff. The Grand Illusion and all that is what you tend to gravitate towards. The Grand Illusion as an album is a fantastic. It's I'd put it in my top 50 albums of the 70s. But as a group, I'm not totally blown away by their stuff. And they released an album several years ago called The Mission, and it was okay. It was kind of back to the basics. So my expectations for their newest album that came out wasn't high. But when it came out, I gave it a listen. It's called Crash of Crowns. It came out this year, I believe. It's a great album. It's kind of like 70s Styx again, really.
I'll check it out.
Kind of slightly more back to their prog roots. Like I said, I was completely shocked how much I enjoyed the album, not being a huge Styx fan, especially the latter stuff. But Crash of Crowns, it's a really good album, very surprisingly good album.
So probably the most surprising album to me is an album that I love the band's first three albums, and I never really gave their fourth album much of a shot until probably, honestly, it's probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I finally got around to checking it out, and it's hands down, it's just an incredible album. I would definitely put it up there with the band's best stuff. But it's the album number 4 by Stone Temple Pilots. Of course, Core. They're known for Core. They're known for Purple. People were kind of up and down on Tiny Music. And I think Tiny Music is kind of where I lost the band also, even though I do love that album. It's not as good as their first two albums. So then, like I said, when they released number 4, I never really gave it a shot. And then, as I started getting back into vinyl, probably, 5 or 6 years ago now, I started slowly kind of recollecting a lot of the stuff I had from a lot of those 90s bands. And when I was going through the Stone Temple Pilot stuff, I picked up this, and I picked up Shangri-La, which is the album that came out after this, which not a very good album. But this one I would definitely put up there with Core and with Purple as some of their best music.
I need to listen to it. I've never listened to it.
Yeah, it's a great album.
So my last one is kind of going back in a similar vein, but it's Alice in Chains. The album they released right after
Lane
Stanley's death. Black Gives Way to Blue. My expectations were very low. You got a new lead singer. The whole dynamic of the band has changed. And it was surprisingly good. The guy they got to be the lead singer, you can hear where he could match the Lane Stanley's vocals if they were doing live performances.
Yeah.
But he had a style of his own that was all his own. and the album's really good. Definitely did not expect that,
Yeah.
because usually in those cases it doesn't work out that well, you know.
Yeah, and it's an album that it took me a long time to check that one out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been probably just recently that I finally listened to it, but I see a lot of people post about it online about how good of an album it is. So yeah. It's I think there's a lot of people out there that love that album. Well, that's all we got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop us a comment down below. Let us know what some of your biggest surprising albums are. I definitely could have went a lot more than just the ones we touched on here. But let us know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all we got. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Keep on spinning. Peace.